800 feet above the Central Highlands near Pleiku. A 6-man long-range reconnaissance patrol inserts into triple canopy jungle where intelligence reports suggest a single NVA supply cache. Within hours, they discover not a cache but an entire battalion staging area, and by midday, enemy patrols are closing in from multiple directions with extraction, suddenly anything but guaranteed. What follows becomes a masterclass in how reconnaissance doctrine, improvised deception, and precise fire coordination can turn a numerical disaster into a tactical escape. The Central Highlands in 1968 present a tactical paradox. Dense jungle canopy limits aerial observation to thermal signatures and occasional clearings, while the terrain itself, rising from 1,500 feet to over 5,000 feet in elevation, channels movement along ridgelines and streambeds. For long-range reconnaissance patrol teams, this environment offers concealment, but also isolation. A 6-man LRRP team carries approximately 200 rounds per M16, 2 M60 belts, totaling 400 rounds, fragmentation grenades, smoke canisters, 2 M18A, 1 Claymore mines with 700 steel balls each, and a single PRC-25 radio, weighing 23 pounds, with batteries for roughly 48 hours of intermittent transmission. The mission profile is straightforward. Insert at last light, move 1.5 miles to a suspected cache site, observe for 24 hours, extract at a pre-designated landing zone. No direct action unless compromise is imminent. The LRRP team operates out of Camp Holloway under the 1st Cavalry Division's reconnaissance doctrine, which emphasizes stealth over firepower. Each team member is cross-trained in navigation, communications, and immediate action drills. The team leader, a staff sergeant with 2 previous tours, briefs the insertion plan. The Huey will approach from the west at treetop level, flare into a small clearing identified on aerial photos, and remain on the ground no longer than 15 seconds. The team will move northeast along a ridgeline, avoiding trails and stream crossings where ambush probability is highest. Primary extraction is scheduled for 72 hours post-insertion at a clearing 2 miles north of the objective. Alternate extraction sites are marked at 1-mile intervals along the ridge. Weather forecast calls for intermittent rain and low cloud cover below 3,000 feet, which will complicate close air support but also degrade enemy observation. The insertion at 6:20 p.m. proceeds without incident. The Huey's rotor wash flattens elephant grass as the team exits in pairs, moving immediately into the tree line. The helicopter climbs out to the west, its turbine whine fading within 30 seconds. The team establishes a listening halt 200 feet from the landing zone, remaining motionless for 20 minutes, while the point man scans for movement and the radio operator confirms comms with the forward operating base. No enemy activity is detected. The jungle here is triple canopy, with primary growth rising to 120 feet and a secondary layer of bamboo and vines, restricting visibility to less than 50 feet in most directions. The team moves in a modified wedge formation, maintaining 10-foot intervals and using hand signals exclusively. By 8 p.m., they have covered half a mile and establish a night defensive position in a thicket of bamboo, setting out 2 Claymores on likely approach routes and rotating 2-hour watch shifts. At first light, the team resumes movement toward the objective, a grid coordinate where aerial reconnaissance detected recent ground disturbance consistent with supply caching. The terrain grows steeper, and the ridgeline narrows to less than 100 feet across, with steep drop-offs on both flanks. At 9:15 a.m., the pointman signals a halt. Ahead, through a gap in the foliage, the team observes not a cache, but a full staging area, lean-to shelters constructed from bamboo and palm fronds, stacked crates covered with camouflage netting, and at least 30 NVA soldiers visible in the clearing. The team leader estimates the site covers roughly 2 acres and likely holds a battalion-sized element, possibly 400 to 500 troops. This is far beyond the scope of the mission. The team withdraws 300 feet and establishes an observation post in dense undergrowth, the radio operator preparing a situation report for immediate transmission. The radio call at 9:48 a.m. reaches the Tactical Operations Center at Camp Holloway within seconds. The team leader's voice is calm and precise. Enemy battalion-sized element identified at grid coordinates. Request immediate extraction or fire support. Team is undetected, but in close proximity to enemy positions. The TOC duty officer acknowledges and begins coordinating assets. The nearest artillery battery, a 105 mm howitzer unit at Fire Support Base Mary Lou, is 8 miles southwest and can deliver fire within 6 minutes of a fire mission call. Close air support is available in the form of 2 F-4 Phantoms on strip alert at Pleiku Air Base, but their ordnance, 500-pound bombs, and 20 mm cannon is too large for safe employment near friendly forces in dense jungle. An extraction helicopter is placed on standby, but the nearest suitable landing zone is 1.25 miles from the team's current position, and movement through the jungle will take at least 2 hours. The TOC instructs the team to maintain observation and prepare for extraction at 2 p.m. What the team does not yet know is that maintaining that observation window will prove impossible, but the NVA are not static. At 10:30 a.m., the team observes increased activity in the staging area, soldiers forming into squads, officers conducting briefings, and equipment being redistributed. Then, at 11:05 a.m., a patrol of 12 NVA soldiers moves directly toward the team's observation post, following the ridgeline trail. The NVA pointman appears to be tracking boot prints or disturbed vegetation, scanning the ground methodically and pausing every few steps to examine broken stems and scuffed earth. The team leader makes an immediate decision. The observation post is compromised, and movement is the only option. The team withdraws silently, moving perpendicular to the ridgeline and descending the steep eastern slope. The terrain here is nearly vertical in places, requiring the team to lower themselves using vines and exposed roots. Behind them, the NVA patrol reaches the observation post and begins searching the area. The team has perhaps a 10-minute head start before the enemy realizes they are being watched and initiates a pursuit. The descent takes the team into a narrow ravine choked with vegetation and running water. Visibility drops to less than 20 feet, and the noise of the stream masks both their movement and any pursuing enemy. The team moves downstream for 400 feet, then climbs the opposite slope, angling northwest toward the original extraction point. At 11:42 a.m., the radio operator reports their situation. Team is moving under pressure. Enemy patrol in pursuit. Request extraction be moved up to earliest possible time. The TOC responds that the extraction helicopter is airborne and en route, but the landing zone must be secured and marked before the aircraft can commit. The team leader estimates they are still 1 mile from the extraction point and calculates they have perhaps 30 minutes before the NVA patrol closes the distance. At 12:10 p.m., the team reaches a small clearing, roughly 300 feet in diameter, the result of a recent tree fall. The clearing is not the designated extraction point, but it offers the first open sky the team has seen since insertion. The radio operator establishes contact with the inbound Huey, call sign Raider 16, and provides a smoke signal. Yellow smoke grenade popped in the center of the clearing. The helicopter pilot confirms visual on the smoke and begins his approach from the south. Then, at 12:13 p.m., automatic weapons fire erupts from the tree line to the east. The NVA patrol has caught up, and at least 2 RPD light machine guns are now firing into the clearing at a cyclic rate of 700 rounds per minute. The Huey breaks off the approach, climbing steeply to avoid ground fire, and the team withdraws into the western tree line, returning fire in short bursts to cover their movement. The team leader reassesses the situation. The enemy now knows their approximate location, and the extraction point is compromised. The original landing zone, 1 mile to the north, is still viable, but reaching it will require breaking contact and moving through terrain that likely holds additional NVA elements. The team has expended approximately 40 rounds of M16 ammunition and 1 smoke grenade. The 2 Claymore mines remain unused, and the radio operator confirms that artillery support is available on call. The team leader decides on a deception plan. They will move west, parallel to the ridgeline, and establish a hasty ambush using the Claymores to simulate a larger force and buy time for a final push to the extraction point. The team moves 600 feet west and identifies a natural choke point where the ridgeline narrows to less than 50 feet with steep drop-offs on both sides. The point man and the assistant team leader emplace the 2 Claymores on opposite sides of the trail, angling them to create overlapping kill zones. Each mine is set with a 100-foot firing wire leading back to the team's position, concealed in a thicket 150 feet beyond the ambush site. The remaining team members establish a hasty defensive perimeter, with the M60 machine gunner covering the back trail and the radio operator maintaining contact with the TOC. At 12:35 p.m., the NVA patrol enters the kill zone. The team leader estimates 15 to 20 soldiers, moving in a loose column formation. He waits until the lead element is centered between the 2 Claymores, then initiates both mines simultaneously. The detonation is instantaneous and devastating. Each Claymore propels 700 steel balls in a 60-degree arc at a velocity of 4,000 feet per second, shredding vegetation and flesh within a 50-foot radius. The NVA column disintegrates, with survivors scattering into the jungle on both flanks. The M60 gunner fires a 3-second burst from the left flank, then shifts position immediately, the muzzle flash and sound creating the impression of multiple firing positions coordinating an ambush. The team does not wait to assess casualties. They move immediately, heading northwest at a near run, covering 800 feet in less than 5 minutes. Behind them, the sound of shouting and sporadic rifle fire indicates confusion and disorganization among the enemy. The deception has worked. The NVA believe they have engaged a larger force, possibly a full platoon, and are regrouping before continuing the pursuit. At 1:05 p.m., the team reaches a secondary ridgeline 1,500 feet from the original extraction point. The radio operator reports their position and requests an immediate artillery fire mission on the ambush site to further delay pursuit. The fire support base Mary Lou acknowledges and begins plotting coordinates. At 1:12 p.m., the first salvo of 105mm high-explosive rounds impacts the ambush site, each shell delivering an effective fragmentation zone of approximately 150 feet. The fire mission consists of 6 rounds, delivered over a 2-minute window, and the team observes secondary explosions suggesting the artillery has hit cached ammunition or equipment. The TOC confirms that the extraction helicopter is repositioning for a second attempt and will be on station at the original landing zone at 1:45 p.m. The survival of the LRRP team hinges on a single piece of equipment and the discipline to use it correctly: the AN/PRC-25 radio, and what reconnaissance teams call the radio hook, the practice of maintaining continuous contact with higher headquarters to coordinate multiple fire support assets through a single communications channel. Weighing 23 pounds with battery, the PRC-25 operates on FM frequencies between 30 and 76 MHz, with an effective range of 3 to 5 miles in jungle terrain, depending on antenna height and atmospheric conditions. The radio operator, a specialist 4th class with 8 months in country, maintains continuous contact with the TOC, relaying position updates every 10 minutes and coordinating fire support with artillery and air assets. This radio hook, keeping the channel open and active, allows the TOC to push critical intelligence to the team without delay. At 1:20 p.m., as the team moves toward the extraction point, the radio operator receives a critical update. A forward air controller in an O-1 Bird Dog, call sign Covey-22, is overhead at 4,500 feet and has visual on enemy movement converging on the landing zone from 3 directions. The FAC estimates at least 200 NVA soldiers are moving to cut off the team's escape route. The radio operator relays this information to the team leader, who immediately requests a danger-close airstrike on the enemy positions. The FAC acknowledges, but notes that the F-4 Phantoms on station are carrying ordnance too heavy for close work in triple canopy jungle. Instead, the FAC coordinates with an Army UH-1C gunship, call sign Shark 14, armed with 2 M60 machine guns and 14 2.75-inch rockets. The gunship arrives on station at 1:28 p.m. and begins engaging enemy positions 600 feet south of the team's location, firing rockets in pairs and following up with machine gun strafing runs. The rockets, each carrying a 10-pound warhead, impact with enough force to suppress enemy movement and create a temporary corridor for the team to reach the landing zone. This episode demonstrates the critical role of the radio hook in LRRP operations. Without the PRC-25 and the discipline to maintain continuous contact, the team would have no means of calling for support, no way to coordinate extraction, and no ability to warn higher headquarters of the enemy presence or receive real-time intelligence from the FAC overhead. The radio operator's precision in relaying coordinates, his ability to work with multiple assets simultaneously, artillery, fixed wing, rotary wing, and FAC, transform the radio from a piece of equipment into a lifeline. The lesson is clear. In reconnaissance operations, information dominance and the ability to mass fires at critical moments can offset numerical inferiority and create windows of opportunity that would otherwise not exist. At 1:42 p.m., the team reaches the original extraction point, a clearing approximately 400 feet in diameter, with a single large tree in the center. The clearing is under sporadic small arms fire from the tree line to the south, but the gunship's rocket runs have forced the NVA to keep their heads down. The team establishes a hasty perimeter, with the M60 gunner covering the southern approach and the remaining riflemen covering the flanks. The radio operator pops a purple smoke grenade to mark the landing zone and confirms visual contact with the inbound Huey Raider 16, now descending from 2,000 feet. The helicopter pilot reports taking ground fire but commits to the landing. At 1:45 p.m., the Huey flares into the clearing, its skids touching down for less than 10 seconds as the team sprints across open ground and piles into the cargo bay. The extraction is not clean. As the Huey lifts off, automatic weapons fire rakes the aircraft from multiple directions, and the crew chief reports hits to the tail boom and engine cowling. The pilot banks hard to the west, gaining altitude and speed, while the door gunners return fire with their M60s, each weapon cycling at 550 rounds per minute. At 800 feet, the helicopter clears the immediate threat, and the pilot reports to the TOC that the team is secure and en route to Camp Holloway. The flight takes 12 minutes, and the team remains silent during the transit, each man processing the events of the past 6 hours. The Huey lands at 2:03 p.m., and the team is met by the company commander and intelligence officers for an immediate debrief. The debrief at Camp Holloway lasts 3 hours. The team leader provides a detailed account of the enemy staging area, estimating the size of the force at 400 to 500 soldiers, the types of equipment observed, including mortars, heavy machine guns, and anti-aircraft weapons, and the likely mission of the unit, a staging operation for an attack on Pleiku or nearby fire support bases. Intelligence officers cross-reference the team's observations with signals intelligence and aerial reconnaissance, confirming that the NVA battalion is part of a larger offensive planned for late April. The information provided by the LRRP team triggers an immediate response. A B-52 arc light strike is scheduled for the staging area within 24 hours, and additional reconnaissance assets are tasked to monitor enemy movement in the Central Highlands. The arc light strike occurs at 3:20 a.m. the following morning. 3 B-52 Stratofortresses, flying at 3,000 feet, release over 100 bombs, with a total payload exceeding 8,000 pounds over a target box measuring 1 mile by 0.5 miles. The bombs impact in a time-on-target sequence, with all ordnance arriving within a 30-second window to maximize shock effect and prevent enemy dispersal. Post-strike reconnaissance reveals extensive damage to the staging area. Craters up to 30 feet in diameter, destroyed shelters and equipment, and no observable enemy activity. Intelligence estimates that the strike killed or wounded at least 150 NVA soldiers and disrupted the planned offensive, forcing the enemy to withdraw and regroup. The LRRP team's reconnaissance, conducted under extreme pressure and with minimal resources, has directly contributed to a strategic-level outcome. The tactical lessons from the mission are incorporated into LRRP doctrine almost immediately. First, the use of Claymore mines as a deception tool, creating the impression of a larger force and buying time for evasion, becomes a standard technique in reconnaissance training. Second, the importance of the radio hook, maintaining continuous communication and the ability to coordinate multiple fire support assets simultaneously, is emphasized in pre-mission briefings. Third, the decision to abort the initial extraction and move to an alternate landing zone rather than remaining in a compromised position is highlighted as an example of adaptive leadership under pressure. The mission also underscores the limitations of reconnaissance teams. 6 men, no matter how well trained, cannot hold ground against a battalion-sized force, and survival depends on speed, deception, and the ability to call for support. The technical performance of the equipment used during the mission is also analyzed. The PRC-25 radio, despite its weight and limited battery life, proves reliable under field conditions, maintaining contact with the TOC and coordinating fire support without interruption. The M18A1 Claymore mine, with its 700 steel balls and command-detonated design, delivers exactly the effect required: immediate, devastating firepower at a critical moment. The M60 machine gun, carried by one team member and firing 7.62 millimeters ammunition at 550 rounds per minute, provides suppressive fire during the extraction, forcing the enemy to take cover and allowing the team to reach the helicopter. The Huey, despite taking multiple hits, completes the extraction and returns the team safely, demonstrating the ruggedness and reliability of the UH-1 platform in hostile environments. In the weeks following the mission, the team members return to their normal rotation of reconnaissance patrols, but the experience near Pleiku becomes a reference point for future operations. The team leader is awarded the Silver Star for his leadership and decision-making under fire, and the radio operator receives the Bronze Star with V device for his role in coordinating fire support and maintaining the radio hook under pressure. The mission is briefed to other LRRP teams in the 1st Cavalry Division, and the tactics employed, Claymore deception, alternate extraction planning, and continuous fire coordination through disciplined radio procedures, are incorporated into standard operating procedures. The broader lesson is clear. In Vietnam, where the enemy often holds numerical superiority and controls the terrain, reconnaissance teams survive not by fighting, but by thinking, by using intelligence, discipline, and improvisation to create opportunities where none exist, and by leveraging the full weight of American firepower at precisely the right moment. Stories like this remind us that war isn't just about dates and numbers. It's about people, the split-second decisions that shaped entire battles. Every flight, every firefight, every tactic is a piece of a massive puzzle where one order could decide the fate of hundreds. We bring back these forgotten moments to show that behind every report and archive page stood real men, pilots, scouts, engineers, soldiers, whose courage and ingenuity changed the course of war, even if their names were never written in textbooks. Tell us in the comments, what moment of the Vietnam War impressed you the most? Or what operation should we cover next? Your ideas keep these stories alive. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like and subscribe. It helps us uncover more forgotten chapters where history lives through those who fought it.